So hi guys, I'm Deyna, Paid Media Director here at RocketMill, and today I'm going to explore how you could be wasting some of your paid search spend and a test you can run through to see if that's the case. So, first things first, I want to talk a little bit about ad frequency. Everyone's probably familiar with this, especially from channels such as TV and radio, also online, channels like display and YouTube. How often you show an ad to someone is really important when it comes to response. You don't want to show an ad too many times to someone. For PPC though, it's not really a consideration. I guess it makes sense. Ultimately, you are interrupting someone with your message when it comes to display video. Whereas paid search, for example, someone's asking a question, they've gone and actively looking for information. If that's the case, and your client has the answer to that question, shouldn't you always answer it? So, the answer here is like many things in life, it's unfortunately pay to play. It's not free to show ads, and if we show someone an ad and they click, we're charged a fee by Google. If someone's comparison shopping, for example, they might click our ad 1, 2, 3, 4+ times. So ultimately, we could be driving a lot of clicks and bring the same people back. If we think we've got a really good product and or a unique offer, then couldn't we instead rely on our brand to bring them naturally back in? So I wanted to find this out for a client of ours. So I'm going to run you through a test I set up and ran with some help from our data team on this. So it's for a large anonymous client of ours. They do spend quite a bit. So in terms of media spend, I'm really keen to make sure that everything we spend is driving the best returns possible. So the first thing I did was to scope out the opportunity. Obviously, if there are few repeat visits coming back through paid search, then this isn't really worth exploring. So first step was to measure this. The number was quite high, so I found that 20% of our traffic in a given month was coming back from repeat visitors. So from people who have previously accessed the site via Google were coming back through our paid search activity. Looking at spend, it lined up 1-to-1. So 20% of our spend was talking to people who have already visited the site from Google. That's quite a lot of money. As mentioned, with a large budget, that money could be used in other areas, such as demand generation, rather than just talking to people who previously interacted with the site. So this led to the following hypothesis. So users who have already visited the site via Google search are no less likely to convert if we exclude them from further PPC activity. If this is true, we can increase our return on investment by not spending media budget on repeat visits. So this was the hypothesis, now to come up with a plan. So the first step was to jump into Google Analytics and use the client ID function to create two groups of people. So I'm going to run through these two groups now. So I'm going to use a mattress company as an example. I don't know why I chose mattress, because I really like my mattress. I'm not in the market, but we're just going to go with mattresses. So the first group is a control group. These people have visited the site via Google and they see PPC ads as normal. So hypothetically, I'm looking for a new mattress, jump onto the search engine results page, and I see an ad in grey. I click it, I go through to the site, I take a look about, I get a feel for the price, the brand, look at reviews, seeing what they're offering. I then leave it and come back tomorrow. I make another search, and again, ad at the top of the page, be it the same ad copy or different, trying to pull me back in and get me to revisit the site. So that's a control group. So on the other side, we have our experiment group. These are people again who have visited the site via Google, but this time we'll see no further PPC ads on their journey. So going through the example again, I'm looking for a mattress, I go onto Google, I do a search. I click through, get familiar with it, I then come back the next day, and the key difference here is I'm not shown an ad. If I'm interested in the product, I'm going to come back direct or perhaps organically. So that's the two groups I've laid out. So before we jump into the results, two things to talk about. I want to talk about the platforms and data sources we used. So from a platform side, we use Google Ads. We use the audience exclusion function to block out our experiment group. We also positively targeted our control audience. This lets us measure the spend we would have seen through the experiment group. From an analysis side, we used Google Analytics, as mentioned, client ID to build the audiences, and then we used R to build and aggregate and analyze our data. So if you're not familiar, R is a programming language focused around data analysis. It's really useful for analysing data in scale and does some stuff that otherwise would take many very tedious hours to do. So really important to have that sort of skill set internally when you're running tests like these to make sure you are getting the most accurate results. Final point was data cleaning. It's a very tedious subject. I'm not going to go into too much detail. There's quite a lot of pitfalls unless you're really considerate about what you're looking at. Stuff like pre-existing cookies, people who convert on the first visit, and also non-last direct click channel attribution. So when it comes to data cleaning, it's a quite long time to make sure we are comparing like for like and can really trust the results we're seeing. Okay, so now we've got the test laid out. I'm going to run through the results we found. So just to run through again, we have the control group. So the control group sees PPC ads as normal. We then have the variation in blue, which are people who see a single PPC ad or come to the site organically and are then served no further ads. So the first step was to make sure the groups are the same size. As you can see, they're roughly the same size, which is great. We then wanted to make sure that over time, seasonality wasn't impacting one group over the other. So we plotted this same data out over time. We can see here we have users, and on the horizontal axis we have the date. We can see uniform growth over time, and we're pretty confident that these two audiences are as we expect, and there's no bias between the two different groups. So, to get into the meat of the analysis, this is a really interesting slide. So we can see here on the vertical axis, we've got the transactions, and then on the horizontal axis, we've got the medium, so CPC on organic here. What's really interesting to see is that when users are not served additional PPC ads, a lot of them will come back through organic, as we can see in blue. However, not all of them. Even from this slide, not looking at the data, we can see there's a bit of incremental value being driven through PPC, which is really interesting to see. So the next step was to pull the data here, combine it with the session data we have, and work out a conversion rate. And the finding was that for those who received no further PPC ads, they're 7% less likely to convert across any channel than those who have seen ads, which is pretty interesting. It's showing people multiple ads is having an overall incremental benefit on our activity, which is good to know. We combine this with the data we have from our control group to work out a return on investment. And we found that far from being wasted, we're driving incremental orders for the brand, and we're also seeing a 200% return on our investment, which is pretty good. So the final step we took was just to make sure that this wasn't a one-off or chance. So we run the numbers, and we were 99.9% that our control outperformed our variation. So going back to the beginning and our hypothesis, looking at this, we have categorically proven this to be false. We know that by showing people additional PPC ads on the path to conversion will increase overall conversion rate and deliver a profitable ROI. We can instead say that additional PPC ad exposures and associated spend drives incremental revenue as a positive return on investment. Given this, we should continue to show PPC ads across the path to conversion. So those are the results, and it leads to, I guess, the ultimate question of why is that? So it's quite a tricky one to answer, but we think it's very heavily linked to the client-specific consumer behaviour. Obviously, it seems like whilst our client has a great product, most people will find their way back organically, but actually quite a few won't. So it suggests that maybe we're just one tick mark on a long list of to-dos someone has. So being there at the last step is really important to drive incremental revenue for the brand and make sure we're getting as much as possible from search. So finally, wrapping this all up, for our client, we found the hypothesis to be false. We would expect, though, for different verticals and different brands, performance to be slightly different. And for our client, we found that 20% of our spend is being correctly used. If we found, on the other hand, the hypothesis to be true, we could have saved 20% on our media spend each month, which is a sizable sum over a year. So I run this test for our clients, and we saw some interesting results. I'd highly encourage you to run this test yourself and to see what results you have for your account. Thank you for your time.